please acknowledge that there is cause and effect in life. That a plumber in Minnesota isn't going, I got nothing to do tonight, I'm going to go agitate. They're afraid and they're protecting each other. So if the government...
What is she afraid of?
MAGA pundits Scott Jennings and Hal Lambert returned to Abby Phillip's CNN show to defend the indefensible related to ICE and the recent murder of a woman in Minneapolis. Let's watch this panel conversation together. I'm going to have my opinions as we go. That is what I am doing here. But then I really want to know what you think about it in the comments section. Let's check it out.
As new video emerges of the ICE shooting in Minneapolis, a divided America sees it in the eye of the beholder. This time, the angle is from the cell phone of the agent who shot and killed Renee Good in her car. The White House claims that this video supports the notion that he acted in self-defense. Now, we want to show you the full clip, but we have to warn you that it is disturbing.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh! Fucking bitch.
DHS says that footage backs up their story that she used her car as a weapon to hurt or kill the agent. The vice president agrees, reposting the video, saying the reality is that his life was endangered and he fired in self-defense. But critics of the administration argue the opposite. They say that it is damning to hear her say, I'm not mad at you, and hearing the officer or a officer in the video call her an effing bitch after that shooting. Now, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego responded to Vance, questioning why the officer was filming the incident in one hand while wielding a gun in the other. He wrote, quote, no law enforcement ever trains to get in front of a vehicle. And why did he continue to shoot even after she drove away? A U.S. citizen died, and the vice president is trying to justify it. Joining us in our fifth seat is Darren Porcher, a former NYPD lieutenant. Darren, I wonder what you think of those questions that Ruben Gallego poses about both what the officer was doing. He was holding the gun in one hand, apparently recording in the other, then fires a shot while also still recording. And then also just where he was positioned. Does that matter?
It does. This is very significant. I was a lieutenant in the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau, so on many occasions of investigating shootings of this magnitude. And one of the things that we always trained officers to do is step away from the vehicle. And this, when we look at from a procedural perspective and best practices in policing, this is spot on. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You want to step away from the vehicle and simply jot down the license plate number and get the person in another time. The offense here is somewhat trivial. I don't see a felony that was committed. I don't see an acrimonious act where it created the propensity for an assault against another common citizen. In addition to that, after the vehicle pulled away, after that first shot, you see two more shots on the driver's side. So the threat had already passed. However, the officer continued to fire additional rounds. Therefore, I think that this is really going to be questionable from the perspective of the 1989 court decision as it relates to Graham versus Connor, which introduces when and how a police officer can use force. Procedurally, this is not sound, but from a law perspective, it can be somewhat questionable.
Scott?
I mean, contrary to what I heard out here the other day, this person was not a random passerby who just happened to be driving through her neighborhood. This person is part of a group of people who form convoys to interfere with federal law enforcement operations. They drive convoys of cars into active law enforcement situations. They interfere with ongoing law enforcement activity. This is a felony to do that, A. B, this person had been following ICE around all day, apparently, according to witnesses, now according to further reporting. C, they didn't follow lawful commands to stop, get out of the car. D, they accelerated a car into the officer. It clearly hit the officer. I don't understand how you could watch this video and all the other videos that have come out and not come to the conclusion that this is an unfortunate, tragic situation that was caused by someone, the person driving the vehicle, using extraordinarily poor judgment from top to bottom. Doesn't make me happy. I don't like it. I hate this. I don't like it when U.S. citizens or anyone dies in any kind of a engagement with law enforcement like this. But this person exercised extremely poor judgment and put themselves in harm's way, probably committing a felony in the process, and this is the result.
Can I just ask how you not see this in the gray area? That was great. That was a great
gray area?
Yeah. The police officer walks around the front of the car. So the way it was initially told, and by the way, I'm not left or right, so don't think I'm a liberal and so I'm automatically going to defend. But the way it was initially described by Kristi Noem was that this car was going after him almost like as though the car was going down the street. He winds his way around after 6 months earlier having been dragged by a car. So he did put himself in harm's way. That doesn't mean she was right to do it. But the problem that I have with this conversation generally, not you personally, is one side wants to see it one way and one side wants to see it the other way, and there ain't no middle ground, and there is.
So, Scott Jennings, I'm no fan of Scott Jennings, and we haven't even gotten to the other MAGA dude yet, but what you're hearing again and again, and I put it up on screen, is this sort of but. Look, nobody's glad that this mother died. We're not celebrating it. But, however, Jon Stewart actually did a very funny video. I'm not sure if I can put the whole thing up there, that he called Butts and Prayers. And it's this litany of Fox News and right-wing stuff where they're repeating this. They're like, look, nobody's happy that a woman got shot in the face and a child is orphaned. But, you know, and it's this qualifying, but it's her fault. But she should have done what she was told. His assertion that this was a felony is, I mean, obstructing law enforcement, if that's what this was, can be a felony based on the circumstances. I don't think, I'm not a lawyer, I don't think that, we can watch the videos. I don't think that this meets that criteria by any stretch of the imagination. I am not ready to grant that whatever these dudes were doing out in the street was necessarily justifiable, good, you know, law enforcement. They're running around. They don't have to tell anybody what they're doing. They're dragging people out of cars. There's no shortage of evidence of this. The people in these communities are showing up to self-police, to record it on their phones. You know, that's why they're out in the street. The right paints these protesters as, you know, well, they don't paint them. They literally have called them domestic terrorists, which is absurd. That is so chilling to think about, the hyperbole of that. And then we have Kristi Noem coming on here, and I'll put this up on here. She does, a little press conference, and then it's got this slogan on the front of her podium here. One of ours, all of yours. That is pretty scary. Now, I mean, there's some people that are saying this directly comes out of the Third Reich, and you don't need to be a historian to catch the tone of that. This is the DHS, the official, but one of ours, all of yours, and all of yours is bold. So, who are ours? ICE, I would assume. Who are yours? Well, that's kind of sliding around, isn't it? I mean, who's us and who's them? They get to decide and use deadly force. All of this underlines if you don't do what we tell you, we can kill you. That's the message.
She should have listened to the command. He should not have been where he was. He overreacted. I know it's easy to say. And I think that we have to get in the middle somewhere on this and recognize that two people were wrong.
I disagree with that completely. I don't see this as a gray area at all, and I certainly don't see her playing a role in her own death, Scott. I mean, you can see even law enforcement officials have played the video frame by frame. Earlier, Anderson Cooper had a guest who was playing the video frame by frame, and you see in every frame she's turning her vehicle away from the ICE officer. They are approaching her. She was not going at him. She was trying to get away because they were approaching her vehicle. You also hear him in this video refer to her as an effing bitch. None of this seems like someone who should be in a position of filming her on his phone. He is the officer. He is the one with the weapon. He has all the power in this situation. Regardless if she's a protester or not, you were saying those things almost as if it justifies her being shot by him. That's That's just not true. Since Trump's second term, there have been 16 shootings involving ICE agents. 4 of those have resulted in death, including Good. Other times, there have been 14 incidents where ICE agents have pulled a weapon. Another 14 episodes where ICE agents have used a weapon that wasn't lethal, like pepper balls and rubber balls, rather, pepper spray. This is not okay. This is not normal behavior. And I think if we pretend that there's a middle ground here, we don't have to come to the middle. Actually, we could just use our eyes and ears and look at what we saw. There was nothing confusing about that video.
But she's not a protester, right? She was there to interfere. She had her car sideways in the middle of the road.
So she deserved to be murdered? That can't seriously be your point.
You use the term protester. We keep using that. She's not a protester, okay? She's there to interfere with law enforcement. She has her car sideways in the road. She's clearly been doing this, as has been reported. She's part of an active group to do this.
Regardless of what you want to call her, are you justifying her being shot by an ICE agent?
Are you justifying her pulling into the officer?
Well, that's precisely what Scott Jennings and Hal Lambert are doing here. They are justifying her being shot. They are asserting, oh, you keep saying protester. She's a domestic terrorist. That's the term that the government is using for anybody who doesn't obey. You don't obey. They're taping this kind of like she tried to run him over with her car. Watch the video. What she did was not obey, and he shot her, and they're asserting, well, that's his job. He's doing his job.
I'm disputing the basis of that. That's not factual.
But this is
the
very
video shows it's not factual.
All right.
But she was not going at him. The video shows that.
Go ahead, Darren.
Do you think officers train for this scenario? Yes or no?
I'm sure they do.
All right. Back in the 70s.
And not only that, this personal officer was dragged.
But you answered my question.
Summer.
You answered my question.
Got 35
Back in the
1970s, there was a study done on how police officers should engage individuals in cars. Whenever you what came out was whenever you shoot a person that's driving a motor vehicle, and you're successful, the centrifugal force of that vehicle will continue to move forward. Therefore, you do not defeat the threat. So what do you do in a situation like that? You move away from the car. And we found on a national level that police have gained an overwhelming level of success in terms of trying to get away from the vehicle as opposed to putting themselves in harm's way.
Can I ask you another question, Darren? The exchange, we're very focused, rightfully so, on what happened with the officer with the gun. But I'm also curious about the interaction with the other officer who approaches her window. And we see in the video, he says, get out of the effing car, and grabs the door handle, presumptively to try to pull her out. I have questions about that and about that tactic. And I keep hearing people talking about de-escalation being something that seems absent, not just in this situation, but in a lot of interactions that we have observed with ICE and citizens, whether they're protesters or others.
The de-escalation comes with the verbal commands, and the officer may not have been successful, but at the same token, you had the ability to step away and merely jot down that license plate number and get that person another point. But what's more so significant is that officer that discharged his weapon put his fellow officer in harm's way. He could have gotten shot, because when you look at the trajectory of where these bullets came, they were relatively close to the officer that was standing next to that passenger side door. Therefore, we refer to something as firearms control. We want to know where you're shooting before you discharge your weapon. Remember, after the car passed, you still had an officer that was discharging rounds at the side of the automobile. The threat had already fizzled out. The vehicle is moving forward. And as I mentioned in the earlier part, the centrifugal force of that vehicle is going to continue moving forward even if the operator is shot. And we saw the same thing happen in this video. After the lady was shot, the vehicle continued to move forward and crash into another auto.
I love that they have an actual law enforcement person on here to talk technically about this as part of this panel. But that's another point. I mean, you can stop at the horror of this guy just deciding he's the judge, jury, and executioner, and our government immediately taking his back that this guy just snapped off 3 rounds in this situation. That's wildly irresponsible, right? He could hit bystanders. He could hit his partner who's standing feet away from him.
Don't you think, real quick, that I keep going back to the behavior of the officer that went up and said, get out of the effing car. It was very clear that he felt pretty comfortable in terms of his safety with this car and this woman. He walks up, he reaches in, he can see. So if I'm his fellow officer coming this way, I see that he's not screaming, gun, gun. He's not freaking out. You know that this is sort of a woman in her car. She's not really a threat. It just felt so ratcheted up for what was happening around him, that gentleman who was taking the photos with his camera. And I felt like he wasn't keying off of what was going on.
We can't admit he was hit by the car, correct?
Well, we don't know. We don't know if the camera. No, we don't know if the camera hit the car.
He was hit by the car.
We don't know if the camera was hit by the car in his hand.
We don't know that. He was hit by the car.
Okay, he was hit by the car. Okay, and he was hit by the car jumping out of the way. In other words, if he had not jumped out of the way, he would have been killed.
I disagree.
I mean,
I disagree. I'm telling you this as a person that's trained for this. I'm telling you this as a former police academy instructor that trained recruits on how to evade a vehicle that's moving forward. We've done studies on this time and time again, and it's proved to be an overwhelming success if the officer steps away. And you mentioned he was hit by the vehicle. It is a problem that he was hit by the vehicle, but was he injured? Do you think there was a genuine injury?
She was turning away.
But he jumped. Should he wait to get crushed to death and then fight back?
But even the video shows he was turning away from her. So he was raised by the car. She was not driving her car at him. I mean, we could just look at our eyes, the video, and see.
I just want to.
Okay. I mean, they're stuck in that one mind frame. I'm going to call out two things that Hal Lambert said is like, you know, if he hadn't jumped out of the way, he would have been killed. I watched the video. That doesn't, first of all, he's the guy that walked in front of the car. He's walking around the car. She's saying, I'm not angry at you, dude. She doesn't even turn the wheel until this guy's partner grabs the door aggressively. He's like, get out of the effing car, right? She turns the wheel to like, bye. And that's when the guy takes a step to his left. The car brushes his hip and he shoots her 3 times through the windshield. What Scott Jennings says is, and he's being glib, he's like, do you expect him to get crushed to death and then fight back? Well, again, I don't think he was in danger of being crushed to death by any stretch of the imagination. That's the kind of magical leap all of MAGA seems to be making on this. And second of all, no, that's just not what was happening here. There was no scenario from this video in which he was going to be crushed to death, and it doesn't justify, their imaginations do not justify the use of deadly force like this. It's the use of deadly force because it became deadly. What it looks to me more than anything else is just absolutely reckless. It's absolutely reckless, and it's deadly force because he killed her. Now, you can say he was shooting at her through the windshield. Fair enough. I'm not defending the guy. But just the fact that, she starts to go and his effing bitch mind pop, shoots at her. That's, it's a hair trigger with these dudes. And that's the problem. They show up in groups of 50 to capture one person. They're all packing heat. They're all masked. They're all walking around doing a lat spread. They've all got their one-liners ready. These are people that are walking around with big chips on their shoulders, and communities hate it. Communities hate it. And then our government goes on, and basically J.D. Vance is saying, we're going to see a lot more of this once these guys start going door to door. Well, guess who else went door to door? This is a pattern, folks, and, history is full of it. And I can't believe that we're seeing it here in the United States, but it doesn't do us any good to pretend it isn't what it is. We got to call a spade a spade. And the fact that they are able to put a slogan like, one of ours, all of yours, on that, like on the podium. What are you talking about? An absolute immunity? This guy, she didn't do what he said and he shot her and he has absolute immunity. What are you talking about? I don't have a prescription for what we do. Like, I don't know what we do collectively to stop this. If we do nothing, they're going to continue to ramp it up. That's clearly the plan. The dog whistles have become things that they put on the front of the podium at their press conferences. So, I mean, I hate to end on such a dire sounding note, but I mean, you tell me in the comments, am I crazy? Am I misreading this? Have I been doing these videos too long and now I've got my head full of crazy conspiracy things and calm down and you're making too much of this. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And the fact that these folks all sit around and try and convince pundits like Hal Lambert and Scott Jennings, who with a straight face, Scott Jennings is like, were we supposed to wait till he was crushed to death and then fight back? I mean, I guess they're supposed to, anybody who doesn't do what they say, we need to assume that that person is a terrorist who's prepared to kill you and you got to take preemptive action. It's insane. It's insane. Am I crazy?
I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online, working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that if you're an illegal alien, you've got to get out of this country. And if you want to come back, apply through the proper channel.